Celtics Beat is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Well, we finally made it to the playoffs. We did it. It's time. We're here. Finally, after the entire season of hearing, it doesn't matter if they get to the playoffs. It doesn't matter if the Celtics get to the playoffs. Who cares what they do? Boston Celtics will enter the 2023-24 playoffs as the number one overall seed and will take on, of course, the Miami Heat. Welcome inside Celtics Beat, everybody. Evan Valenti solo today. Adam Kaufman taking his vacation at the perfect time, right before the Celtics start their journey to hopefully win number 18. With that, we have, I think, Josue, is this your first time on the pod?
First time with you, I want to say. Yeah. I think it was another host before you and Adam took over. But yeah, man, appreciate the invite.
Yeah, we tried to get you on a couple weeks ago. We were just throwing feelers out there, and you were like, "Hey, I can't this week, but anytime, put me on the schedule." And I was like, "This is the perfect time to bring Josue on because we are ready to rock and roll." The Miami Heat, and sort of like they blew out the Bulls like by 20. Couldn't even believe I was watching. I was like, wow, like the Bulls really laid down like this against a Jimmy Butlerless Heat team. Miami's the pick. And before we even get into that, Josue, I had said to a buddy of mine who's a huge Heat fan, I said, this is back in like December, January. I was like, we're playing each other in the playoffs, right? Like it's destined. This just happens to be the way it's going to go, I think, for quite a bit. Like, they're just going to have to go through each other to get to the NBA Finals. These two teams, they are the NBA Finals representative for the Eastern Conference for the past 4 years, so there's a lot of history here. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but, like, you knew this was going to happen, right? You knew in order to get to the NBA Finals and win Banner 18, Josue, the Boston Celtics would have to face some old demons, including, of course, the Miami Heat.
Oh, of course, Evan, 100%. You know how poetic the NBA is. I mean, this is out of our control, but the basketball gods always seem to sort of make it so that the things that are supposed to align happen. What everyone wants or anticipates. I thought it was fitting the other night to see Harrison Barnes do the kind of like the dagger 3-pointer against his old Warriors team. You could take that as you will. Going into the quite an off season for those guys and wondering if they're going to try to keep this thing going in terms of like their dynasty. But if you ask me, it's over, so I don't want to go into this series thinking, oh man, Celtics should sweep these guys. And then all of a sudden the Heat should go into a full rebuild. But I mean, it should be personal for the Celtics. And it does take away a little bit of that shine when there's no Jimmy Butler in the middle, big time, and of course, this isn't the same Miami Heat team that we saw last year. They're not as challenging. They don't provide as many problems, as they did last year. And I think if you look at what Brad Stevens did in the offseason, he addressed those lingering concerns that we had for the Celtics after what we saw between these two teams. Now, the Celtics did make a humongous comeback. It fell short. Jason Tatum got hurt in the first play of the first quarter in the crucial Game 7. However, Brad knew that this team needed to go through adjustment. He needed to elevate the roster around Tatum and Brown. That's exactly what he did this season. I think that's why the Celtics are head and shoulders ahead of the Eastern Conference. And this is going to be that series, though, because, mentally, I think the Miami Heat could really put up a big fight for the Celtics. And what I mean by that is not making it easy, to close out games in the fourth quarter. I mean, you look how some of these games went down, even against a shorthanded Miami Heat team, guys step up, as we saw, Friday night, when the Chicago Bulls, I guess, decided not to show up, Evan. I don't know. Did they snatch their hearts out in that first quarter? Because I just felt like they were never really into it mentally. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, rather, had himself a night, but it seemed like no one else was on the same page. And that's kind of what the Miami Heat do. But listen, this isn't the same team compared to a team like the Bulls, right? The Celtics are way, way better. They've had the experience to not fall into those traps, if you will, mental traps. And I think when you look at Jaylen Brown and Duncan Robinson, what happened, the little dust up we saw in Miami the last time these two teams met down there, Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum, they don't talk to one another when there's a best of 7 series going on. They may be best of friends off the court, but and I love that. And I remember asking Bam last year during the Eastern Conference Finals, and he was just like, F no, I don't talk to that guy during the series. But that's a good, that's what I like. I'm from that generation. Give me more of that. And I
Yeah.
think that's the kind of chippiness kind of series we're gonna get. But I still think the Celtics are, they're favored, and they should be. They should win the series in like, I don't know, 5 games, honestly. But I think the Miami Heat are gonna make sure that they're gonna get their money's worth, so to speak. They're gonna make it really hard for the Celtics. And that's great. I really wouldn't have it any other way for the Celtics team. I just wish Jimmy Butler was in there. But you know what? Maybe that adds more to it, Evan. Maybe that brings Miami to a, everyone is on the same page. Maybe it makes them even tougher because of that. So we'll see.
Yeah, there's no question that Miami is not, they're not going to lay down here. Okay. This is,
Oh
again,
no.
this is a lot of history here, recent history between these two teams. I mean, you go back to the Bam block on Jason Tatum still lodged in the back of my head. You have, of course, another great
2020
in 2022. Again, another just nail biter. Last year was just some of like the craziest highs and lows you could experience as a fan and as someone who covers the NBA. It's just so much going on. And this year, of course, the Jimmy, not Jimmy, the Robinson and Jalen stuff, like there's so much history here. And this is why, like, when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, like I kind of believe, and I'm not trying to like blow smoke here. I just, you look at everything else. This is the premier rivalry in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion. Like there's legitimate, like again, 3 of the last 4 years, these two teams have faced off in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like these are two teams that are just trying to get to the finals. And the amount of moments we've had, the Derek White buzzer beater right before the shot clock expires. Boston almost coming back from a 3-0 lead for the first time in NBA hit. Like, there's so much history here. And you look at everybody else that's left in the Eastern Conference, and yes, there are a lot of good teams. My point being, nobody has more history, more beef, more bad blood than these two. Like, if you do all the brackets and you were to line it up perfectly, nobody has more beef than these two teams. I don't care who you're playing. So this is why, like, despite the fact that Miami might have a little bit of a talent drain because Jimmy's not there. We'll see with Terry Rozier, and we'll see. We're not quite sure how long Jimmy's going to be out. Definitely not playing tomorrow, and probably not playing Wednesday either. And after that, I don't know. So I'm not going to speculate. It would shock me if Jimmy came back and tried to play, just because he knows, like, this is it. This is what we play the whole season for. But like, I'm thrilled that we get one more matchup between these two teams in the best of 7. Because again, as much as it makes my stomach like churn and how much like tequila I might have to drink to get through these games, I still love it. Like I still the very the core of my being, like I still love when these two teams play. It's awesome.
Yeah, because the Heat are gonna bring it, man. That's really what it is, and that there's that, like you said, there's that rivalry, there's that chip on it seems like a lot of these guys' shoulders. They all have something to prove, and you look at guys that have to step up now. Jaquez and Highsmith, guys who have been on the team for a bit. Well, Jaquez is a rookie, but I feel like he's just came in as if like he was ready for this role in terms of coming off the bench. Yeah. Perfect fit, and what a greght opportunity for him to just kind of not only step up but just show that he can arrive. In terms of, like, he can be in the moment, I should say. Like, I just think when a rookie goes into the playoffs, like, it's really it's a great challenge, and I think that someone like Jaquez, he's proven to be that guy off the bench. He even started a little bit, so I think he's ready for this, and no word about what is it, Rozier? It's crazy, man. Because it's not just Jimmy, man. These guys are really banged up. They've lost those a couple of those guys who I feel like they were looking to help them bolster that second unit, especially when they made the trade for Terry Rozier. So, I just think that whole, like, we got nothing to lose, people don't expect us to win. Like, they're gonna feed off of that in a big, big way. And I also think this is a team that's not afraid to play in Boston. They've been here before, so. It's going to be an exciting series, Evan. Hopefully we get, and I think we will get some of that chippiness for sure, because if you're the Miami Heat, if you're, Eric Spoelstra, you want all of that. You want to get into these guys' head, and you want to do it early and often, because let's face it, like you said, man, they the fact that these two teams have had this type of history and it's going down in the first round, like, you can easily set the tone in a big way if you just get out to let's just say, a significant start in the first half, right? So I just think that's something that Spo is going to really be preaching to these guys heading into Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, we'll break into that in a little bit, but I do want to point out Bam last night after the game said, quote, "We're not a regular 8 seed, and people know that for some reason." Uh, Bam, we all watched you guys march through the
For
Eastern Conference as
some
an 8 seed
reason,
last year and go to the finals. What do you mean
hmm,
for some reason, bro? We watched it.
you're the prime, well, not Bam, but the Heat are like one of the prime examples of what the play-in tournament can do for a team. You know,
Right,
like come on, man. Like,
right.
yeah, you guys didn't win it all, but what a run to go from a team that was so desperate just to get into the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they're in the NBA Finals.
Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is so easy to play. I can make my Celtic picks and make my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals and easy gameplay and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. Celtics and NBA fans, you can get in on Prize Picks in 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. On Prize Picks this week, I'm selecting Jason Tatum to dish out more than 5 assists and his teammate Jaylen Brown to have more than 22.5 points. Download the app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Prize Picks.
Yeah, and I like you brought up a point earlier, and I was going to bring this up later, but we'll kind of get into it now. Celtics and Heat. Look, there's a lot of history here, but this is not the same Miami Heat team. This is not the same Celtics team, guys. Like this is the one big thing that people are trying to make. Oh man, aren't you scared of Miami? It's like not really, man. This team is way different than last year. Like they have
Right.
legitimate answers to a lot of things that Miami's going to throw at them. This again, I almost sort of feel bad just because again, there's and this is why, like, you take the regular season seriously, by the way. Boston was able to rest guys at the end of the season, play guys sparingly, get the bench guys. Like, Payton Pritchard's on a heater right now. Sam Hauser's played well all season. And again, everybody's been kind of like gearing up for the playoffs. Meanwhile, Miami's had to play for their like life basically the past, obviously, couple of games. But, you know, they couldn't play the rest card as much as they wanted to, even though Jimmy would take time off. Like I feel bad, but these two teams are not the same. You cannot compare last year's results to this year's results. And I think some people are getting caught up in that. But when you look at this Miami team, potentially with no Jimmy Butler, you know, Terry Rozier, I don't know if he's going to play tomorrow. We'll see. But when you look at this Miami team, what about Miami makes you sweat the most right now?
Just their discipline, I guess, on the defensive end of the floor, how they can get going on the fast break, transition. I just think in terms of like the athleticism and, the length, they're just not as scary, when you look at the teams that have had the Celtics, not that they had their number, but have represented the biggest challenges. I think those are the two areas where you have a really good chance of beating the Celtics, especially if you're a very disciplined defensive team, especially against this type of offensive firepower that the Celtics have. But the thing about this matchup, though, is having Tatum and Brown, like that, those constant attacks and them trying to address the wing position. I think that's where things get tricky. Highsmith's a solid defender. That's the reason why he got, his number is called, especially when he was a rookie. But I also think that not having someone like Jimmy out there, it's challenging. Duncan Robinson chasing Jaylen around the floor the way he did last time, or Tyler Hero. I mean, getting those guys to come to be lockdown defenders is just not their MO. I think they need other guys to help them. And I think the Miami Heat never really traded for those other guys, right? They kind of doubled down with more offense, and they kind of rely more on their rebounding and and just trying to be more physical in a sense. So I think that's something that the Celtics can. It's something that you can really slow them down. Help guys slow down guys like Tatum and Jaylen. But I think when you look at the matchup between Bam and Kristaps, I think that's where the Celtics. I mean, some people would say going into this one that matchup cancels each other out. The rest, you have to worry about the rest. But I think now that they're shorthanded, that's an option that I let the Celtics explore more. Really challenge Bam, make him really work hard in terms of having to go out to the perimeter and defend. play down low because Kristaps is someone that can score with his back toward the basket. Those are weapons out of their center that they just didn't have last year. And listen, I loved Robb Williams, man. He meant a lot to this team's culture, in terms of like the toughness and rim protector. Obviously, the lobs were great, but Kristaps he just presents a lot more problems, I feel like. And I think that's a big reason why Brad Stevens went out and got him and said, hey, if we see Miami again, we'll be ready. And I think this is going to be a big example of that, especially against a shorthanded Miami Heat team.
Yeah, I'm just petrified of what Spo's cooking up in the laboratory, man. Like he's the
one
him and like when they played Miami the other night, Miami and Philly, I mean, you had two coaches that are just like the best at coaching up zones, like just junk zones. I as much as I hate Nick Nurse and I just despise watching him coach a basketball game, like his teams just know how to play a cajillion different types of zones and junk the game up. Spo's gonna do the same thing. Spo's gonna do the same thing. This is gonna be junked up. It's gonna be physical, no question. It's gonna be overly physical. They're gonna play a lot of zone. And if you're Miami, I'm kind of curious what you think about this. But if I'm Miami, I'm looking at a few things. One, we have to, in transition, we have to execute really well. We got to get out in transition and get easy points. We have to rebound the basketball both on the offensive and defensive end. We have to hit a bunch of threes. I think Miami knows this is going to be a math problem if they're going to win this thing. I think they're going to let Boston shoot threes.
There's going to be a lot of threes. I was just going to say, Evan, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for them to do that. It's going to be one of those challenges. And if those shots are falling, that's going to help the Heat for sure.
I think Miami's going to dare Boston to beat them from three. I think because so, they're going to say, hey, look, like, sometimes Boston is, and look, we've been watching this team the whole year. Like, there are games where it's like they just don't go in, man. Like, they get good looks. Right. They just don't go in. Now, Boston hasn't had more than a 2-game losing streak this year, which is pretty notable. But, like, it does happen from time to time. Boston will go cold. And I think Miami's going to bank on, we'll get, maybe we can get because this is tough without Jimmy, but we'll get a Bam game. Maybe we can get a Caleb Martin game. Maybe we can get a Tyler Hero game, maybe a Duncan. Like they're gonna try and find ways to tilt the math in their favor, and I think they're gonna let Boston shoot from three. And if like I can see easily, right, Boston having a really good first half from 3-point range, everybody feeling good. They come out of halftime, they miss like 3 or 4 or 5 in a row. Miami comes down, executes, trims the lead, and all of a sudden a double-digit lead gets down to single digits, and then everybody gets tight.
Yeah. And then that's when the shit hits the fan most of the time, right? It's like, oh no, like we're all going to spiral out of control, and this is exactly what we've been, dreading the entire time. But like that, to me, again, this is Spo, and it's so funny with Spo. Like everybody gave him so much crap when he was first coach of the Miami Big Three with LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, and everybody's like, oh, he's not that great of a coach. Now he's the best coach in the league. And I look at this team between Boston and Miami, and obviously the no Jimmy Butler thing is huge. If you go back to last year's series, their best offense was Jimmy Butler pick someone to pick on and then go at him and pick and roll. Miami doesn't have that. Like Tyler Hero's a good offensive player. I'm not saying he's not, even though maybe Bam punched him, or not Bam, maybe Jimmy punched him the other day. We don't know. That's sort of like why was that story so strong? Like, well, who is this fake account that everyone's believing? But yeah, who knows? Maybe
but it's Ira Winderman who covers the Heat for a living and has been for a long time. So that's why I'm just like, maybe that's true. But wait, hold on. So he actually tweeted it though, because I don't know if that's a real Ira account or not. Because what I've seen is screenshots. So is that? I went to because they always sometimes people tag the tweet that where it came from, and I went to that account and it was the real account. So I don't know, but maybe we got it all. Maybe we got it all right. I don't know. I don't know.
I saw the NBA Central or whatever instead of NBA
you get
Central.
Nervous you get nervous with that stuff. We're smarter than that now, but it's like. You look at they just don't have that pick and roll maestro, at least for the first 2 games. Right. No, Jimmy might come back. It's certainly possible. Crazier things have happened. He's a tough son of a gun. I respect Jimmy always will. Top 5 playoff guy you want to have on your team for sure. But if they don't have that, like you can, and like this Boston team, they don't have a weak spot defensively outside of maybe Kristaps Porzingis. And I think Joe Mazzulla will be a little bit more ready for the, hey, if they're going to pick on Porzingis all game, and he mentioned this against that. Remember when DeJounte Murray went off against Atlanta?
Yeah, bro.
And Murray was just cooking everybody, and then would bring Kristaps up, and Porzingis would get in a pick and roll switch, and then he would just get one-on-one islanded with Murray, and Murray yeah. Like, I think Joe after the game said, like in the playoffs, this would have been a little bit different, but I wanted Kristaps to feel comfortable on an island by himself against guards. I want him to get used to that, which I thought was really smart. But outside of that, like, you can't pick on Jalen. You're not picking on Drew. You're not picking on Tatum. You're not picking on White. Like, good luck to you out there. But when you look at these two teams, what's the matchup you're looking at? Or maybe I'll put it this way. Where is Boston's biggest advantage in your opinion?
Honestly, I feel like their biggest the wing position, I just think is going to provide just issues. I mean, whether it's Tatum, whether it's Brown, like, it's just going to be really hard for them to stop the bleeding, so to speak, especially if they're going downhill and they're in attack mode. So I'm with you, Evan. I think if you're Eric Spoelstra, you challenge these guys to shoot the ball. It's helped you in the past. This team does fall into that trap sometimes where Joe Mazzulla, as he told us time and time again throughout the regular season, if it's a good shot, I don't have a problem with it. Like, he'll revisit plays, and that's what he's looking at. He's not looking at whether it went in or not, whether it was a good look. So I think the Celtics are going to take those shots, but like you said, Evan, when they're not falling, they can't try to shoot their way back into a 15-point lead after it went down to 4. Like, that's a habit of them, of theirs, and I think when it comes down to a team doing their best to hang around, and then all of a sudden it's a 2-point game with 4 minutes to go, like, that's where you really put yourself in position to knock off the Celtics, and I think the Miami Heat, they thrive in those moments with or without Jimmy. So I think this is a great challenge for the Celtics team, because they're going to get a really, really hungry, feisty Miami Heat team, led by a very legendary head coach. Let's face it. I mean, he's at that status now. He's up there, and he's not going to be dropping down anytime soon. So when you look at what happened in that Eastern Conference Finals series, I said that he coached miles around Joe Mazzulla.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Big time.
Yep.
And I think Joe Mazzulla, because of what happened there, he was like, the fact that he went down so quickly, that I think he still has nightmares about it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm being like, I don't mean like literally, but I think that's something that's been in the back of his mind all season long. That's why he's so kind of in these guys' face about that. Like, hey, you don't look ahead, or you don't say, oh, we're this or we're that. No, you face the team that's in front of you. You face each play, each quarter, one by one. And I remember they had the metaphor with the sandcastles and making sandcastles and all that. You have to make a new one every single day. You can't just be thinking about what happened. That's it. Whether you win or lose, that's in the back. I mean, it's in the rear view, because you take care of what's in front of you. And I think a lot of that has to do with what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals. Guys getting ahead of themselves, or overthinking about the next game, or what happened the game before, and all of a sudden you're not focused on what's in front of you, and you lose another one, and then you lose another one, and then it's, oh wait, we're on the brink of elimination. How did that happen? Well, that's the Miami Heat. Like, that's what that's how the playoffs can go down. If you're not mentally prepared against a team that's fighting essentially for their lives. They approached every single game last year like it was a play-in game. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that Joe Mazzulla kind of wants to instill in these guys. That regardless of who they're playing, regardless of how great their record is or how historic this regular season has been, they got to take care of business of what's in front of them, and the challenge that's in front of them, and this hungry Miami Heat team, man. I think I wouldn't have it any other way for a first round matchup for the Celtics team, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's, for me, when you look at the rest of the Heat's roster, you look back to last year, Caleb Martin, I still have nightmares about that guy going.
Man, but what happened to that guy?
I know, in the finals, him and Gabe Vincent couldn't hit anything. Like, I don't know what happened.
I went into the regular season being like, you know what, man, good for him. He's gonna really blossom this year. He's gonna really. I mean,
no,
like
the
same guy we saw last year.
The 3-point variance went back the other way as soon as they got to the finals. It was so annoying. It was like, you gotta be kidding me. Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin, who just absolutely annihilated the Celtics. It'll, obviously some other guys too, but those two guys And I'm looking at the Heat's roster. I'm like, all right, which one of these guys is going off this year? Because one of them's going to go nuts that you've never like. It's going to be Highsmith, right? Like Highsmith's going to be the guy
Probably
that's going to
three
shoot
and
like
D.
67% from three on
Yeah.
7 attempts a game, and you're gonna be like, what is this? Just black magic sorcery? This is ridiculous. Somebody is. I don't know who it's going to be, but this should be a pretty fun series. As we kick off the playoffs. And look, again, if Boston were to lose this thing, it'd be catastrophic. It'd be unbelievable. It would be the biggest upset of maybe in NBA history. Like the 1-8,
I'd say.
with Warriors and Mavs, right? That was before the Miami Heat did it last year. It was Warriors Mavs, right?
Yeah, that's right. The We Believe Warriors.
So like
Monte Ellis and them.
Yeah, this would be a significantly bigger upset than that. Like the Boston Celtics, I'm not trying to like, we all know this. The Boston Celtics are historically great net differential, right? They have like the 4th best net differential in NBA history. You have a Miami Heat team who the past 2 years has not been a great offensive team, and they don't have their main initiator in their half-court offense with Jimmy Butler. So if Miami were to pull this off, I think it's without saying it'd be the biggest upset like in NBA history. But again, that's why I don't think this is going to be. I think this, and I'll end our sort of our preview kind of on this. I think this team understands, like, going to the finals is hard. Okay, going to the NBA finals is difficult. This team knows that maybe better than most. I would say not maybe. They know that's better than most teams. Okay,
right.
I think they're much more focused this year. And we're going to get into Joe Mazzulla's interview in a second. They're much more focused this year. They brought on Drew Holiday, who is an NBA champion, who has been through this and knows how to get through games and get through the mud and all that stuff. I think everybody on the team from the very beginning, right from training camp, was all on the same page. We're all about Banner 18. We know the steps that we need to take. They're not going to play with their food this year, I don't think, right? I don't think you're going to have an Atlanta situation where they're like, we'll get them. Like, who cares? Like, no, I think this team is like, we need to take care of business, make sure everybody's healthy, rested, and make sure we put ourselves in the right position going forward to get to the finals. Because if and when they get there, they're going to play a team, whether it's Denver, whether it's OKC, whether it's Minnesota, whether it's the Clippers, the Dallas, like, the West is a bloodbath, and those teams, whoever's there, is going to be really, really, really talented, and Boston has to be ready to go.
Yeah, definitely, man. And I think it's not going to be an easy path for any of those teams you mentioned out West, So when you look at, when you compare the paths, it's a bit lighter for the Celtics. I mean, because of the injuries, though. That's the thing. Like, think of the top tier teams, the teams that the quote unquote were Celtics should be worried about. Their stars are all banged up.
Go on the
Their
list.
stars are all banged up. Yep, Jimmy,
Knicks, no Randall, no Giannis, no Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
Embiid's kind of banged up. Halliburton has been the same since the All-Star break. I can't
remember the last time. Exactly. Like, I can't, like, the last time it was like this, like, it's been years. I mean, not just the Celtics, but for any team, really, and especially when you look at a team like this that dominated the regular season with a 15-game lead at the top of the Eastern Conference, so I just think the path is there. I really do think that, and I think the Celtics know that they cannot take this lightly at all. I think they know that this is fortunate, it's sort of like the basketball gods pointing them to the finals, like, hey, this is the way you do it. You guys been through the bumps and bruises, but like, hey, remember the lessons you learned, and I'm looking at you, Tatum, I'm looking at you, Jalen, these are the veterans. These are the guys that not only been to the NBA finals, but had to go through those grueling moments, let's face it, people questioning if they could even coexist, and people questioning if they really have the heart to win a championship. There was a lot of question marks where people just really, especially with Jason Tatum, just putting him out there and saying like, man, maybe this guy isn't quite the guy yet, quote unquote, And then you look at the way they've been talked about across the league when LeBron James talking about how it, like you said, it's hard to win a championship, and he was almost 30 when he did it, and so was MJ, and like, hey, Tatum was. He's still pretty young, but you look at the experience and the bumps and bruises, and you're like, this guy should be ready, and he's shown you time and time again. He already has a few signature playoff performances, on his resume. So it isn't a matter of oh, does he not come up big in those huge moments? No, he's done that, against the Bucks, against the Heat, against some of the best players in this league. So yeah, I mean, look, you look at this Celtics team and what they are now, especially with Porzingis, especially with a champion like Drew Holiday. I mean, talk about a guy who knows what it takes. I think the experience coupled with the talent says that there's no reason why this team shouldn't get to the NBA Finals. But I also, like you said, Evan, I don't think they're gonna play with the food this time. Like I don't like the Miami Heat are gonna bring it. So I don't think it'll be a matter of, oh man, the Celtics really blew that 25-point lead. It's more gonna be a matter of, man, the Celtics are still toughening out the competition. Like the Miami Heat are swinging with their best punches, but here come the Celtics with another punch of their own. Like I think that's the kind of back and forth we'll see in this first round series.
Listen to the Joe Mazzulla interview on Part of My Take yet? You've done that?
Just the clips, the viral clips. I didn't hear the whole. I got to watch the whole thing, man. But I love seeing Joe like that, man. Like when he's not like when the last like genuine, when it's not like a scoff or like the way we see him sometimes in the press conference. I'm like, oh, this is Joe really letting his hair down. Or a couple of times when he was on 98.5, like the joking around and stuff like that.
And Bertrand,
the back and forth. I love seeing that side of Joe, man. But yeah, it was those quotes are funny though. The clips I saw.
I highly recommend to anybody that hasn't watched this interview or listened to the interview to go listen to the whole thing, because what's great is Joe does they ask Joe like 2 basketball questions and then they're just like, nah, now we just need to get weird with this, because nobody really we know because we listen to Joe all the time, but not everybody knows that Joe actually has a personality. And he just he's so funny, but he talks a lot about his jujitsu stuff. And I love it. And I love that he talked about why he loves jujitsu and why he does this and why he the best quote I think that's probably going around is like, when's the last time we got choked out? He goes, after our 30-point blow, we blew a 30-point lead to Atlanta. I flew my jiu-jitsu instructor in the next day, and he just choked me out. He has a black eye from it. He's still got a little bit of the shiner left. I love this for Joe. He's awesome. Everybody that wants to give him a hard time for not being a great coach, I think is insane. If people, I saw something that was like, he doesn't make halftime adjustments. I'm like, that's crazy. He makes a bunch of them, just not paying attention. Yeah. And it's just like, it's very cool to see the discourse around him shift. And I think it's cool for Joe that he has this big platform to be himself. And again, we already know this, we've been watching the whole time, but if you haven't listened to the Joe Mazzulla interview, I would. And we'll leave quickly on 2 points. One, have you seen all these 3 movies? Have you seen The Town?
Yes.
Have you seen The Dark Knight?
If I had it. Yes.
Have you seen Whiplash?
No, I've never seen Whiplash.
So Mazzulla talked about 3 movies that he used to watch, like The Town. The reason why I watched The Town all the time is because after, as an assistant coach, he would go back and do his cut-ups from the game and have that on in the background just so he had some background noise.
Okay.
And that's why he watched it all the time. But the 3 movies in rotation are The Town, The Dark Knight, and Whiplash. I was going to have you rank them, but I can't because you haven't seen all 3. For those at home that want to know, it's Dark Knight, Town, Whiplash, and it's really close on all 3.
I was going to guess that, Evan. I didn't want to get ahead of myself. I'll still watch Whiplash, but I'm like, I'm probably going to say most people have in that order.
If you're as a drummer, for the people watching at home, my drum kit's right over there.
Oh, that's what's up. Check you
out. It was Whiplash is an awesome movie if you're a musician, but especially if you're a drummer, it's this is the kind of psychotic stuff you have to do to be awesome at drums. And that's why I'm not a drummer, and that's why I'm doing this. But I will say, Whiplash is an awesome movie. And then before we get out of here, Josue, Celtics in 5, right? Celtics in 5, season 6. What are we talking here?
I'm gonna say Celtics in 5. Don't go back to Miami. Okay, I know it's fun out there. Celtics. Yeah,
I'm gonna say, aren't you rooting for at least 6? You get.
I know it's not bad, but hey, this is a business trip. Okay, so we're treat it like one. And plus, you guys have been to Miami the last what? How many playoff series have there been in South Beach between the Celtics and the Heat? So enough's enough. I think this is going to be strictly a business trip. They're going to go in there, take care of
Strict
business.
curfew. Strict
Maybe
curfew.
maybe drop one, maybe, but then come back home and close this thing out, man. I think that's what happens. But you never know. If Jimmy comes back, that could change things. But even so, man, I think the Celtics should really they shouldn't go back. Do not go back. No game six for sure. You don't want that. You don't want that.
Yeah, I hear that. I think it's going to be season 5. Again, it's not because I don't respect Miami. I do. It's a great organization. It's a great team. But this C's team is just way too deep. This is the team. Again, Boston looked at the end of the season. I kind of agree with you. Looked at the end of the season and said, how do we beat Miami? How do we beat the Nuggets? They brought in Porzingis to break the Miami zone. He's going to be the big zone buster for them. It's also, if you listen to Brad at the end of the season last year, they were too focused on the perimeter, right? Because, Miami could just get into them on the perimeter. You're not going to be able to do that. The safety valve of Kristaps Porzingis down low, the most efficient post player in the league this year. So I think season 5, and this is not Miami's a great organization, a great team. I just think the talent is just the discrepancy without Jimmy Butler. And again, we'll see with him and Terry Rozier. We'll see how it goes. But especially if those guys aren't playing most of the games, like it's tough. The C's have like 4 All-Stars, and it's tough. It's going to be tough. Yeah. I will say though, I would prepare for a physical series between these two teams. If I'm Boston,
yes, 100%.
They're coming after you. They're not going to back down. They're going to crash the glass on both ends of the floor. They're going to run transition. They're going to make you run. So we'll see.
What's your X factor for the series for the Celtics?
X factor?
Yeah.
Derek White.
Yes, I was just gonna say, we went this whole episode. We got to show Derek White some love because I think he's the guy in this matchup that they're gonna keep forgetting about him, Evan.
Everybody does
over and over again. Everyone does, but especially a team like the Heat, where they're gonna start, trying to slow these guys down, looking at the wing positions and all that, and he's gonna be creeping through like he always does. And I'm not just saying that because of what happened at the end of Game 6. I'm saying that because of the evolution of Derek that we've seen this year, man. Like he's just on both ends of the floor. He might average 3 or 4 blocks in this series, man. Like that's how focused he is on that end of the floor. And when it comes to the playoffs, man, I think he's gonna take it up a notch. So look out for Derek for sure, man. I think he's gonna be that guy that the Heat are gonna be like, man, like he doesn't stop. You know what I mean? He's gonna be in the
perfect guy to play for the Heat. By the way, they would.
He really would.
He'd be a perfect Heat player, like no question. He's gonna have a lot of wide open threes in this series. I think
he's already
Drew from the corners.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, well,
look out.
The thing about White though is that he's already in the scouting report, but the players just like in the heat of the moment, man, like he just finds ways to just completely like trick teams into thinking they got him down, and then all of a sudden there's a steal there, steal here, or like back-to-back plays. He's scoring. His offense is rolling, man. So I think we're going to see something like that at Derek this series.
Yeah, and it is in this. I'll wrap on this. It will be interesting to see Porzingis like in the playoffs in real meaningful games here.
Yeah, man, he's so happy.
This is what he came here for. And like again, I've made this joke, and everybody's made it as well. Like Kristaps Porzingis had to stop smiling since he got here, and there's a reason for that. This is like exactly what he signed up for. So
my line's been there isn't a happier player on that Celtics team than Kristaps Porzingis this year.
The vibes are immaculate, as the kids say. That'll do it for Celtics Beat. Myself, Josue. Thank you all for joining us. Again, Prize Picks, the official daily fantasy sponsor of CLNS Media. Download the app. Promo code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100. Make sure you subscribe to this show, Josue's show with Cedric Maxwell.
Yes, sir. Cedric Maxwell podcast.
We love that. Garden Report, you'll see Josue. He'll be in Miami. He'll be in Boston. We're going to be there too. Do not sweat. We'll be there. I'm so jealous that Josue gets to go to South Beach. Son of a bitch.
Hey, it's a business trip, Evan.
Right, Josue. You're full of shit. You know that. For Josue, for myself, make sure you subscribe to CLNS Media on YouTube. Everybody, we made it. The playoffs are here. The best time of year. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the ride. Buckle up. Let's rock and roll.